Hello everyone and welcome to episode 13 of The Spawn Point, joined with Aaron, also known as ThatKSKid, and Andy Webb.
Hello.
And we also have Steve Barnett 3.0, who, yes, looks very similar to the Terminator, or actually, he is Terminator.
He's been upgraded again.
Yeah, he might even get up to 6.0 at some point, who knows. So he's not actually with us, it is just us three, and this week we are going to be talking about, is the PS Vita doomed? But before we talk about that, it's just worth mentioning our sponsor, and this week especially because it is the last week that the summer sale is on for those servers that we talked about, 60% off. So if you're watching this on the Wednesday or the Thursday, then it will still be valid, but any day after that, that code will not work anymore. So that's a little disclaimer, you can't blame us. But this episode, of course, the PS Vita. It was barely mentioned at E3.
That's
E4.
been upgraded as well.
It was barely mentioned at E3. Some major retailers are currently not stocking it, which apparently, according to Sony, is due to the fact that it's so popular, and that's why they're not stocking it, because they've run out of stock. But that's debatable. And also, there's a huge lack of titles, although there are a few games that are coming out this year that may be able to save it, and we're going to talk about that. So, I'm the only person here, I think, who owns the portable system. Both of you don't. You have PSP, or had a PSP, didn't you?
Yeah. Not a Vita, just the regular first gen PSP.
Yeah, I mean, when's like in terms of just portable systems overall, not including the PSP, it could even be the Game Boy. When's the last time that you remember sitting down and actually playing a game on one of those devices, like a Game Boy or a DS or a P? It must. I'm judging it's a long time ago.
A few weeks ago.
Oh, a few weeks ago.
So that was a Game Boy Pocket.
Still playing on the Game Boy then. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the. I don't even know where it is, but I do have the original Game Boy from 1998. But,
yeah. I was playing
no idea where it is.
Pokemon Blue. Just replaying through that.
But this is the device we're talking about here. Now, this actually, before starting this recording, it had a whole lather of dust over it. And that just went to show that I haven't used this thing for months. I actually bought it it was a bit of an impulse buy. I purchased it at last year's Eurogamer as like an impulse buy. I bought it at the expo, and I haven't really played that. I played it a fair amount for the first few weeks, and then there weren't many games, and I just haven't really been playing it at all. But have you ever felt compelled to purchase the console, like when it first came out, or did you ever pay any attention to it at all?
I never did. I never did at all. I'm kind of over portable gaming and all that stuff. I don't know why. I think console and PC is a lot more appealing to me and my taste. So I never really even thought. It wasn't even a thought to me.
But in terms of the PSP, what made you purchase that originally?
I did not purchase it. It was my brother.
All right. Well, but did you ever? I'm assuming you played on it.
I did play it. He had cool games. Like, it had really good games like Tony Hawk. That game, that was really cool. It also had Star Wars Battlefront 2. I played that a lot. But those are mainly the two games that I played. So
I think it is kind of a lot down to games, because that is one of the things. I went into a store a few months ago, and I was looking at, you had like a big shelf for the Xbox One, massive shelf for the PS4. The Wii U had a moderately sized
shelf.
the Wii U had a moderately sized one, and then you had this tiny, like, I don't know, it was so small, it was like the size of it was smaller than a cardboard box. It just had like three rows PS Vita, really tiny section next to the PS4, and it had like all the other games had like top 10 titles at the time, but because there was so little games for the PS Vita, I only had top 5. So
I mean, that's actually
they didn't even
really
have 10 to.
Because I don't even remember seeing any Vita stuff in my local shop.
It's
I
really
might be
hard
wrong,
to find.
But yeah, there just doesn't seem to be anything out, or very little.
Now, going back to E3, I remember watching the Sony press conference, and everything was about. So there was Microsoft; they were just all about gaming this time around, no TV, and PS4 were relatively the same. They just talked about the PS4. They talked about that system in great detail and all the games, and they kind of went, oh yeah, and the PS Vita, there's a few games for that as well. Anyway, the PS4. So like the fact that they barely mentioned it, does that mean that they're losing confidence in the system as well? Are they gradually giving it up? Because I remember the PSP having a lot more focus than what the Vita has, and I don't know, is that down to the lack of games?
Well, I don't really think it's lack of confidence. I think it's the lack of games, and they're trying to cover it up with something else. And I don't think it's a confidence issue. I think they're waiting for games to be produced. So, what's that?
I was just going to say that. Don't you think that maybe they should have talked about it more and tried to talk about how great the system was, so that more developers would feel more convinced to actually go, hey, this is a good system, let's make some games for it? Was it a bad move to not mention it, really?
I mean, I think they're shifting away from AAA sort of games on that as well to more of an indie front on the Vita as well. So I don't know if that says anything additionally.
That is a factor, because I have noticed that there is a lot of the titles they're not exclusive AAA titles. They're indie games, or they're ports of popular games on like the PS4, the Xbox One, or the last gen systems like 360 and PS3. And they're games that have been ported over in for a portable version. I actually have, it was originally 25 upcoming games, but I thought there's a long list, just highlight the ones that most stick out. So there was one of the games is something we did a gameplay preview for on Monday, which is Oddworld New and Tasty. And that is an example of a game that is a port, because it's currently available on the PS4, and it's going to be available on other devices as well as the Vita. And yeah, if you want to see what that game's like, you should go and check out the video we did on that. There's also the Swapper, which is I believe it's an indie game, and you are trying to escape a space station, and you have like cloning kind of mechanic that can help you solve puzzles and that sort of thing. There's the Binding of Isaac Rebirth, Body Check, Metrico. I don't know a few of these because I haven't really heard them. Counter Spy, and then there's some that people might have heard of, which is Hotline Miami 2, which I believe me and you, Andy, we played that on PC at Eurogamer last year, did we?
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah.
And then there's also Minecraft, The Walking Dead Season 2, and The Wolf Among Us. The last three of those are games that I enjoy playing on the PC, so I don't know if I'd enjoy them in a much more miniaturized version.
Do you know if the copy of Minecraft is the sort of regular copy, or is it more of the sort of pocket or the console version? I'm assuming it's going to be more like the one that we saw on the Xbox. So.
I think it's kind of like a cross. The Minecraft version a game is going to be a cross between the console version and the pocket version. So it's not going to be, obviously it's not going to be as expansive as Minecraft on PC, but I mean the main appeal that I always had when I was younger, with whether it be the Game Boy or the DS or the PSP, or even this thing that I barely use, it was always that when I went on holiday and I just, traveling, I was on vacation, I would want something to play on. Now, this brings up a very good point, because now I find myself, because we practically use our phones for everything, like to as a calendar, to, contact people, social networking, and also gaming, I don't find myself wanting to use it as much, because, a while ago, like a long time ago, the phones weren't, phones couldn't do what these systems could do, couldn't play those kind of games, but now they're sort of catching up. So do you think that one of the biggest issues of the Vita is and portable gaming in general, is the popularity of smartphones and tablets kind of overtaking and people wanting to play that more? Because the main reason people are playing this is when they're not at home, because when you're at home, you'd rather play on a home console or PC or something, wouldn't you?
I mean, if I was in bed, for instance, I would probably play like on my phone or something. But I think one of the main things is take for example the Walking Dead. That's now available on iOS, so you can quite happily play that on your phone. So, would you really need a PSP to play that? And I guess the other thing is it's more socially acceptable to be playing a game on your phone, whereas if you see someone like playing a PSP, there's a lot of people that just go, what an absolute nerd.
Yeah, it kind of falls back to trend as well, I guess, because, if somebody saw you with your phone, they'd be like, oh yeah, he's playing Angry Birds or something. Like, that's the normal thing. But if someone saw you playing Killzone on your PS Vita, they'd be like, what's this guy doing? It just seems it's not as socially acceptable, like you said. And the fact that some of those games, like Minecraft, The Walking Dead, even The Wolf Among Us, I think, they're all, they might be coming to the Vita, but they are also going to be on smartphones as well. So,
I mean, there are. I want to just share a funny story. I went onto one of the trains the other day, and when I went onto it, I was looked across, and there was a guy who had his laptop in front of him. It was obviously a fairly decent gaming laptop, and a full-size sort of joystick, so this sort of size.
Oh, like strapped into the smartphone itself.
No, this is on a PC laptop. And he was playing Microsoft Flight Simulator.
So
he
had a joystick and a laptop, and he was controlling this thing.
And everyone else was just like looking at him, going, "What? What is happening?"
And I mean, I've never seen that ever before. That is a bit insane. But when's the last time you saw somebody play on like a PSP or anything like that, and compare that to the last time you saw someone playing a game on their iPhone? Like there's a big difference. So do you reckon do either of you reckon there's a future for this system? Should Sony give up on the handheld market? Should they just focus on the PlayStation 4 and all of their other products?
Well, I think handheld gaming is a niche audience. You know what I mean? It's not going to be for everybody. So I think them going the indie route and not producing as many, so they don't, waste that much time on creating portable consoles, because not as many people are going to buy those, obviously. But I think if they stick to their niche of indie games and stuff, I think stick to their audience and what they're buying, then they should not give up. You know what I mean? Just like tone it down a notch and don't treat it as your primary concern, because obviously the PS4 is.
So do you think there'd always be some sort of audience for these kind of portable consoles? Do you think there'll always be somebody who wants it? They should just not put as much, because if they have to put a lot of money into marketing and actually developing all of the hardware, they're going to have to make up for it by having enough of an audience to meet that. So there might be a lot of people that want to buy it, but if they're spending a lot of money, that might not meet, that might not make a profit for them because there's not enough people taking an interest. So yep. I fear that maybe, the 3DS is a good example of that. I think that people still want these kind of devices, these systems, because the Wii U is struggling. And then it's a little bit weird for Nintendo because they're dominating the handheld market. Like the 3DS is sold so well and is performing so well, but yet the Wii U isn't. Then you've got Sony, who the PS4 is like the top selling console month after month out of, in the console war. And then they're struggling with their handheld system. So is it the handheld, like the system, the handheld aspect overall, or is it just the problem with this particular PS Vita? Is that the problem?
I think it's something to the Vita, because just taking when I went to my last convention, for an example, virtually everyone there had a DS, and they were playing like Animal Crossing and stuff like that. But I don't think I remember seeing a single person with a Vita.
And it has the 3D aspect as well, so it kind of has more of a purpose. Is it more that?
I don't feel like anyone really uses a 3D aspect because it just drains the battery, doesn't it?
And also, a lot of people, it makes their eyes go,
yeah,
funny. That's what I've heard anyway. But is it? But the PSP was really popular, so why is it that the PSP did really well, but is it just they're too similar? Because that might be an issue, is that not enough has changed. I mean, you've got these stupid gimmicks on this thing, like it's got this touchpad on the back that everybody who has got one of these hates. When I purchased this and I used it, I would be playing the game, like a game like this, and because I'm holding on the back, it would be triggering these automatic touch controls, so very, very counterintuitive. You're playing, and like if you're playing like FIFA, for example, and you shoot, it will, and you do that with your hand, it will do it on the game. So I had to go into the settings, turn that off, and then just play normally. And it's got like a touch screen on the front as well and the back, but you don't want to use either of them. You just want to use the controls. It's like they're trying to throw all these gimmicks at you, and none of them really. They're all just very counterintuitive, and no one really wants them. And I think first-hand experience, that might be part of the issue. I think the reason I purchased it was I missed having that nostalgia of the PSP and playing games like Aaron said, like the Tony Hawk games that they had in there, because they were actually quite good. And then I wanted to have that same kind of experience and relive that on the Vita, but I remember when I purchased it, I was like, there's not really many games. The only games that I have enjoyed on it are either like remakes or ports, and like the one thing that I actually did play on it for a considerable amount of time was the Jak and Daxter trilogy, because Andy, you know that's like my childhood game. So it was on the Vita. I was like, oh wow, I can play like all these games I used to play when I was a kid. I can play them on here, play through them again. And after I finished them, I was like, right, what's next? Didn't really have a purpose for them. And I feel the problem is it needs more exclusive titles, and not just indie games. I mean, if you've got a game like The Walking Dead, which is on there, and you've also got it on the PC and other platforms, you're not going to pick playing something on a smaller screen with smaller buttons and, graphics aren't as good, unless it adds extra value. And I think that's the problem, is it doesn't add that extra value. Would you agree? It's just like playing something on a smaller screen with fiddly controls.
I mean, I don't think the controls in them are too bad, to be honest.
They're better than the PSP, which only had one analog stick. That was always an issue for me.
I mean, I think with regards to that, the phone is really the sort of iPhone or Android or everything that is really taken over. If someone wants to play a game while they're on the move, they just need to carry one thing about with them. They don't need to carry a PSP, because it's not the smallest thing as well. And how easy does that fit in your pocket?
Not easily, I have to tell you. Had this thing. I tried to put it in my pocket, and it just looked really awkward. I could barely fit it in my pocket, actually. Like, it would stick out a little bit, and I think it is slightly bigger than the PSP. And
so
if you could just have one thing that does everything, you'd rather have that.
People already got something in their pocket or the majority, that can play games. So what's the point of carrying another thing around that's purely for games and it's got like a 3 to 4 hour life cycle on it, if I'm right in saying that? Because it's not got that great a life cycle because of all of the brightness on the screen and everything and all the gimmicks. And it's just taking up extra space that you can't fit. And I like these days to try and strip out as much stuff from my pocket. So I have my wallet, a couple of keys, and my phone, and that's all I really want to carry in my pocket. And if I could get away with anything less, then I would quite happily do that.
So, Aaron, are you completely against, like, if there was, I don't know, any kind of handheld system that you could play games on, are you would you never play them regardless of what it is? Is it just that, if someone could design, like, here's the perfect system that you could play and you'd have, because I want to understand whether it's just that you never felt compelled to ever really play them or try them out, or whether it's just, the current systems don't interest you. Like, is it the problem with the system or the whole concept in general?
It's all me. I mean, I'm not really compelled to play it. You know what I mean? I'm happy with what I have on PC, so I was just never really compelled at all. But going back to what he was saying about how everyone should be, smartphones are more appealing, why doesn't Sony create their own gaming smartphone?
They did, though.
It's a little little bit like, wasn't there the Nokia N gauge?
There was Sony did one.
They didn't market it at all then, because I never heard of it. I mean, if they advertise it as a gaming smartphone, put on all these games, and then if they do enough advertising, put it at gaming conventions, technological conventions, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You know.
There you go. It's the Sony Xperia Play. Came out in 2011.
That's ancient.
I'll tell you what the problem is with these Sony phones is that it's like Aaron said, there's not enough focus on the gaming aspect. Like it's like, oh, you're all in one phone, you can do this, that, and other. But they need to be able to go. It can, like, obviously they can't say it, but they need to market themselves in a way where it's like, hey, we're just as good as the iPhone, or the iPad, like if they have a tablet, but we can run games at a better frame rate. It looks visually, the graphics look better, and the controls are a lot more. They just need to improve the actual gameplay experience so people can go, well, I could get an iPhone, or I could get this. I could get the smartphone that does all of that, but it can handle these games that are all the other phones can't compete with. And I think that is something that's lacking. I don't think Sony needs to put all of their eggs in one basket. They shouldn't have like a phone and also have these PSPs and separate handheld things. Just the money that you spent designing this device, use that on the phone to make it an all-in-one system. Because even if you don't have an iPhone, if you have one of these Sony Xperia phones and you have to carry that around, you're not going to carry around a PS Vita as well, are you? You're not going to put one in each pocket. So they need to combine them. And I think that's the biggest problem, is you need an all-in-one device, which is kind of like what they were trying to do with the Xbox One, but it wasn't really working out. Like, you need an all-in-one device for a handheld device, but not for something you use at home, because you don't have to carry stuff around at home, so it doesn't matter how many different things you have. But when it's something that relies on you being out and about, you don't want to carry a whole rucksack full of games and other stuff, and that's another good point. The smartphones, they don't have any cartridges, they don't have any discs. It's all stored on there digitally. But even for 3DS, you have these little you have cases and you have cartridges that you have to put in and take out. Obviously, they have a store as well,
But yeah, I think that was the other thing that they might have done to shoot themselves in the foot is the actual memory cards they provided were like really low in memory, and they were really expensive to buy new ones. So you had to have the actual Sony branded memory cards, don't you? So the Vita ones.
Yeah, and there isn't much internal storage either, and that's another big issue.
Yeah. So how much is it's like 40 quid for a 16 gig card.
Yeah, which is like $60 or something. Which
okay, yeah,
yeah. I thought I would just do that because to help out. But yes, I mean you have to buy the separate memory card as well, and
that's not many games these days. 16 gigabyte.
I mean, you can download a demo, and that'll take up a gigabyte. Like that will.
Yeah.
So, but if there was, what games do you play on the PC or on a home console that you would quite like to play when you're on vacation, you're on the move, you can't access them? What games would you like to see that you could play that might not be possible on a smartphone? Could be any game.
Well, probably, crap, I was going to say Minecraft, but you can't do that on a smartphone, but Pocket Edition sucks.
Yeah. But then it is coming to the Vita, so...
The Vita, yeah.
I don't know how that comes out next month, and I don't know how that's going to turn out, but
it's going to be messy at first, just like Xbox was, but they'll learn from it. Probably a racing game, like a Tony Hawk game, something that you can mess around on, explore, something like that. Maybe even Skyrim, but that'd be a ton of data though.
Yeah, mine was already done. That was Borderlands, and then they said, "Hey, that's coming out for the PS Vita." I was like, "Oh, cool!" So I tried it out. I didn't buy it. I just looked at some footage. I tried out a demo of it, and I was like, "This is not the same. Like, it's not the same as what I wasn't expecting it to be exactly the same as it was on Steam on the PC. I was just, it was the controls were really fiddly. Like the frames were really bad. Like the frame rate, it was just, I don't know, it's kind of unplayable personally.
I mean, I think that the type of game that I would personally play is something that you can pick up, play for a bit, and then put down, which is why like a smartphone is really useful for it, because the sort of games I play if I'm on a train or anything, I don't want to crack out something like Borderlands and play it on a PSP for example, because if I'm on a train for an hour, I play an hour of the game, and then that's probably not enough time to get involved in everything, and I don't want to be sat like holding a PSP or looking down at it for extended periods of time. If I want to do that,
so you'd rather have like a game that is very easy to pick up and play, and it's just kind of, you don't have to pick up like a story you have to get your teeth into.
Yeah, just for while I'm on the move, just because you never know when you're going to be playing it. If you've got like 5 minutes to play something, you can just jump in, jump out of it. Something like Tony Hawk's would be fairly good, because you could play about an 11 for like 5 minutes. Yeah, I've had my fun, whack it off, and yeah, done.
Well, I think overall we should share our thoughts and opinions of, well, the main question that this episode is all about. Is the PS Vita doomed? And does it really have much of a future? Who wants to go first answering that? Yeah, the floor is yours.
You there at home. You go first.
You all comment down below.
Andy, do you want to take the stage first?
Go on. I think it's a bit of a dead thing, to be honest. I think the smartphones have taken over, and the fact that you don't really need this big.
Can I just say to fit with our Terminator Steve theme? They're taking over the smartphones, the robotics.
But I mean, unfortunately, I just think the time that the handheld has been and gone, and I don't really see a future for it.
And Aaron, I'm guessing you'd probably agree similarly with that as well.
Yeah, unless they make a PSP phone or something like that, I think it's dead. So maybe they should start looking for different innovations and move on. Try to come up with something that people want to buy, an all-in-one device, because their numbers are showing right now.
And I mean, yeah, me being the owner of one, I really want it to do well, but I think I'm just kidding myself. It was an impulse buy, like I said. I may purchase the Minecraft for it, see how it goes, but I think the future isn't that strong for it. And yeah, I think the general kind of consensus is that, you need something that can be an all-in-one device, like a smartphone or anything, something that can be like a gaming/phone system, because we don't want to carry around multiple devices.
But that has a big enough battery life that it's not going to die.
That's another good point as well. But yeah, this has been episode 13 of The Spawn Point. Of course, I was joined with Andy Webb once again, and we had Aaron, ThatKSKid, annotation right down there, and also Steve Barnett 3.0, who has turned into the Terminator. And who knows what he'll turn out like next time. We might have to upgrade him, make a few more changes and tweaks.
Megatron?
Possibly. That might be the next step. But let us know what you think in the comment section about the Vita, if you own one, whether you've ever thought about purchasing one, and whether you think it's dying, it's doomed. But that has been all from us, and goodbye.
Goodbye.